Hi everyone, today I will be presenting the 7 steps to the spill drill cleanup. And my chemical of choice is hydrogen peroxide. Going over the product identification for hydrogen peroxide 3%, its CAS number is 7722841. First, I would like to demonstrate the 7 steps for the spill. The first step is assess the risk. Second step is protect yourself. Third step is stop the source. Fourth step is confine the spill. Fifth step is cleanup. Sixth step is decontaminate. And the final 7th step is report. Now I will be going over each step in detail. So step 1 is assess the risk. As you can see, the labels that I've drawn demonstrates that hydrogen peroxide is an oxidizer, a corrosive, and an irritant. And the NFPA 704 label for hydrogen peroxide 3% is health hazard 0, flammability 0, reactivity 0, and its special hazard is an oxidizer. In the first step, it is important to address the level of protection, like respiratory protection, and this step begins in the moment the spill occurs. And it is important to recognize the potential dangers and act immediately. The important questions that you should ask in order to assess the risk is what substance is involved. In this case, it's hydrogen peroxide, 3%. How much liquid is spilled? So we will be looking at the spillage of a 100-gallon barrel of this chemical, how dangerous it is, what risks are there, and are there complicating factors. This chemical is harmful if it's inhaled, ingested, absorbed through the skin, and absorbed into the eye. The organs that this chemical targets is the eye, skin, respiratory system, lungs, intestine, thymus, liver, and kidney. For this step, it is important to recognize what you can and cannot do. So constant risk assessment is important throughout the entire spill drill process. For the second step of this spill drill, you will need to protect yourself. So before you take action to address the spill, you must protect yourself. And you do that by wearing compatible protective clothing, selecting right PPE, and especially working team. For the hydrogen peroxide spill, the spill response PPE required are eye and face protection, skin protection, body protection, and respiratory protection. For eye and face protection, tightly fitting safety goggles and a minimum of 8 inches for a face shield is required. For skin protection, the hydrogen peroxide must be handled with gloves. The glove material has to be impermeable and resistant to the chemical. For body protection, a complete suit must be worn to protect against the hazard chemical. The type of protective equipment must be selected according to the concentration and the amount of the dangerous substance at the specific workplace. In this case, we are dealing with a spillage of a large 100-gallon barrel of 3% hydrogen peroxide, so we will need body protection for this type and amount of chemical. For respiratory protection, use a full-face respirator with self-contained breathing apparatus. In this case, level A protection should be used since we must assume the worst and contact with the chemical has severe consequences when it comes into contact with the eyes, skin, body, and respiratory system. For the third step, we will need to stop the source. So in this case, since the barrel is turned sideways, we need to upright the container and we can plug the leak with a wooden dowel, apply putty to the leak to patch up the hole, or use a reusable patch on the hole. In my demonstration, I showed an example of where and how the putty could be used to cover the leak on the barrel. Step 4 is to confine the spill. We have to limit the spill area. The sooner the liquid is confined, the less area needed for decontamination later. In this case, we are dealing with a large spill, so dikes or socks could be used. For this large spill, we will be using dikes in my demonstration to confine it. Confinement should be started at the furthest point of the spill. Avoid putting the dike too close to the spill, or else there will be a risk of overflowing. The dikes should be heavy enough. A non-absorbent dike contains the flow, but does not absorb the liquid. An important detail to remember is that a dike's height should be 2 times the depth of the spill, while its base should be 4 times its depth. The next step is step 5, which is cleanup. The methods and materials needed to contain and clean up the spill of hydrogen peroxide is to soak it up with inert absorbent material and dispose of it as hazardous waste. The waste must be kept in a suitable closed containers for disposal. Furthermore, to contain the spillage and prevent it from spreading more, there must be a holding area to contain the liquid. Therefore, a dike could be used to contain the liquid material. Water will be used to dilute the solution, and fly ash or cement powder will be used to absorb bulk liquid. Here I demonstrated how the spill is properly cleaned and disposed of. The next step is step 6, to decontaminate. So in order to decontaminate, we will have to remove and dispose of personal protective clothing and thoroughly wash the personal protective equipment. The gloves and protective suit should be thoroughly washed, rinsed, and properly taken off. The last and final step is report. Proper reporting lets people know the types of incidents happening in this country and prepares people for the next incident. The information and lessons learned from this spill allows us to take proper measures to prevent this incident from happening again. Thank you for watching how to clean up a large hydrogen peroxide spill with these 7 steps.